I thought they're mine.
Yeah, she went to University of Michigan. She did her undergraduate and then
University of Michigan for master's and Michigan State for when would that be?
Anyway, you all know he's very smart. He has 12 books, and each book takes many years to write, and he's very smart. He's also very kind. And I'll tell you some examples of his kindness. When somebody is doing Armenian studies anywhere in the world, and they get into a tough spot, guess who they call or email to him? He has disciples everywhere in the world. And there's even a bishop who depends on him. Anyway, so he gives ideas to everybody. And he also helps me. He vacuums the house and goes for a walk with me, and so I love you.
You walk with me.
Healthy and happy life. Then I want to say a few words about my dear daughter Sonia. Sonia is also very kind and she's very creative. She can really do wonders with the sewing machine, which I never could. And she's also very wise. When she was a little girl, she would say things that it made us wonder. This came out of the mouth of this little girl. But anyway, I'll first tell you an example of when she was in her maybe early teens or something. I had reached the age of 50, maybe a little beyond. And I was kind of fussing with my hair a little bit, and Sonia said, "Mom, you are 50. You are done being pretty." Now be yourself. Custom of saying this at the table and so forth. And every time Sonia would say, "Thank you God for the sunny day."
No.
And one time Ari said, "Sonia, it was raining all day. How do you thank God for the sunny day?" And Sonia said, "But the sun was behind the clouds." And you know, my dear daughter, I remember that always. When things look gloomy, I remember my daughter's wisdom, the sun is behind the clouds.
That's the goal. And you are just.
And Phoebe, I don't know if I ever told you Grandpa's story. Oh, I wrecked the car when I was 16.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's the
And he wrote a poem for me. And the end of the poem was the word rattle. Anyway, but he was telling me the story, or I used to complain about how he drives. He says, "Well, I've never had an accident." I said, "Yeah, well, how many have you caused in your rear view?" But anyway, he didn't want me to tell him how to drive because he's wise and he knows a lot, including how to drive. So he wouldn't put me in my place or tell me to be quiet, but he cracks himself up. Like if you ever heard him tell the joke of the fly in the soup, La Mouche, we'll save that one for home if you haven't heard it. But anyway, so one day, instead of criticizing me, he just looks at me and says, "One day, Hoja went swimming."
One day what?
One day, Hoja went swimming.
Who went swimming?
Hoja.
Hoja. Hoja. Ah,
So
okay. Hoja.
I knew kind of about the character of Hoja, but I didn't know that particular story or that episode, what happened when Hoja went swimming. Meanwhile, he's sitting here laughing. I was like, "Tell me the story." He said, "No." I was like, "Well, you can't reference a story and not tell the story." So his answer to that said, "Ask Uncle David." So, okay. So lucky me, I love my uncles. I'm blessed and honored and privileged to have two wonderful uncles and two aunts who are not here, but my uncles are here. So I love having uncles as reference points to translate this guy. So I called Uncle David. I said, excuse me, what, sorry to bother you. What happened when Hoja went swimming? Uncle David was cracking up. He's like, why are you asking? I was like, well, my dad told me. So anyway, we're eating, and I don't want to race to the punchline. You can talk about it in your cars on the way home afterwards. But
Or do what Hoja does.
No, it's-
Those who know it, let them tell those
Yeah.
who don't know it.
anyway, it's the nicest way to call your child a piece of shit. Anyway, I actually forgot why I was telling the story. So one day Hoja went swimming, but and afterwards, just how stunned they both were. And for all of Dad's mastery in so many ways and so many subjects, I always look to both of my parents as such exemplars and pillars of faith. And it's a beautiful thing to see and observe, and thank you, Dad. So,
Bravo, sir. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
and they're used to me because at my Thanksgiving speech, and my girls have heard it maybe, I go through the whole list how I've been thankful since 1972 before I even knew enough how to be thankful. Anyway, I've always looked up to Sonia. Before she was taller, I still looked up to her. And yeah, she was always incredibly intelligent, and I remember Mom quoting Sonia's words since we were kids, and both parents really impressed with Sonia. And so there is truth to the term forgotten middle, but then I didn't care because I learned to stay in the background. But Sonia has always been inspiring in so many ways. And then when she was smart, she knew she was smart, and she gave me a nickname. She gave me two of my first nicknames. One of them was Sadie Socks. But the other nickname, she was always reading. I was like, okay, your brain, I'm small. Anyway, when Camille was born,
Knowledge and faith have molded our character and have made us who we are today. From the rooftops of the convent in Jerusalem, where you flew kites, you were destined to explore the sky in search of the mysteries of the divine. Your love of the books and poetry were instinctively natural for you. I think the regret of burning your youthful compositions urged you later on to create what went in flames. Searching for Moses to the Via Dolorosa, following in the footsteps of Christ. I remember my mom's pleadings to you, Apo, to save your younger brother from the political uncertainties and the corrupt environment of the Middle East. I still keep a copy of the affidavit of support that you sent to the Consul General in Jerusalem, vouching that you will pay all my educational expenses. You know, in the Middle East, they don't call someone who has a male child by his own name. So Abraham is Abu Ari, George is Abu Seroj, and I am Abu Ya'ub. Okay? So whenever Satu calls me or Abe calls me, they call me Abu Ya'ub. So Abu Ya'ub has so much to be thankful to you and to Sarah. You honored your mom's wish and indeed saved your younger brother. As we trek our senior trails as decent and accomplished human beings who overcame poverty and the ravages of being refugees, we were saved by the grace of God, and most of all, the piety of our beloved parents who are gazing down from above today, and they are celebrating with us this joyous gathering. And I can hear both parents saying, Habibi Abraham, job well done.
Bravo, bravo.
Together, and we looked like twins. We were of the same height. The difference in age between me and Abraham is only 18 months. According to the calendar, I'm 2 years older, he's 2 years younger. But if you count by months, I'm only 18 months his senior. And I remember in the Middle East, it's the custom that when a child is born, the father of the child has to name the child after the grandfather. So when I was being said, he doesn't look like me. I don't want to give him my name because he doesn't look like me. So they named me George. George was
His
my
father.
my grandfather's father. So they named you. When Abraham was born, grandpa was still alive. He came, looked at him and said, he's a chip of the old block. He's exactly like me. So he was named Abraham. Most stories you read are about how people went from rags to riches. Our life experience is exactly the opposite. We went from riches to rags. I remember when I was born, my parents were wealthy.
Happy birthday, dear Abo Sonia. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whatever it was so nice to be reminded of childhood and years in the past and so forth. Now, I must say this. True what George told, we were very poor growing up. In fact, we were malnourished in the convent. There were 5 of us kids, our parents, and 3 unmarried aunts, 10 people living all in one room for 7-8 years. Until later on, some of us grew enough to demand another space in the convent. But be that as it may, we were so malnourished that throughout my teenage years, I was hospitalized at least 1 month every year I was a teenager. In fact, in 1 year, I was once hospitalized 3 months. Now, why do I mention this? When I turned 80, I honestly felt healthier than I have been through as a teenager. Also, I must say, during these teenage years, while we were so poor in the convent, we had very considerate uncles in Amman. And my favorite uncle, Ardashes, would come to Jerusalem and ask my mom if he could take one of us kids to Amman for a month or 2 to be nourished and to return home. And so I'm so proud and honored that my 2 cousins in Fresno are here. And I couldn't help but recall my dear uncle Ardash. Anyway, when I turned 80, I had a good birthday celebration in Gilroy with the women in my life, Sarah, Sonia, and Satu. And Eric was around. Anyway, I embraced him.
Yeah.
Good guy.
They got tackled on.
Anyway, so I owe my health to my wife. In her earlier life, she was a nurse. I knew she would take good care of me, and she proved herself absolutely right through and through, all through the years to this day and beyond. God has blessed me with wonderful children. I could tell you a lot of things about Ari, Satu and Sonia, but you know them. I could tell you their childhood stories and how much they ever turn 90. There shall be no party. I'll be too old then. So let's enjoy this one and have fun, everyone. And we'll continue the fun at home after we are served our cakes today. Thank you all. Thank you, Sarah, for planning this whole thing. Thank you, Satu, Sonia.
And that's appropriate.
Okay.
Robert Frost.
Robert Frost, the road not taken. Wow.
Two roasted roots and a yellow way, and sorry I cannot travel bug. And be one traveler, long I stood and looked at one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and one to wear. Who as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both on morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, and doubted if I should ever come back. And yeah, okay, sorry. And both, wait, yeah.
The wealth in or absent from our hands that made our family, made our home rich in family. The funny thing is, it was never the food or even its smell. It was never the syllables formed on our tongue that made our table conversations. The simple thing is, it was never the notes that were played. It was never the steps of our feet. It was never the notes that rose from our throats that made our celebrations. The honest thing is, it was never the water in our shared tears. It was never the pitch of our joint laughter. It was never even the days that filled in our years that made us love so fiercely. The beautiful thing is, it was never even the sum of these moments that made our collection of souls more than a collection, and more like mi gente, my people, im ampanik, my family.
Աչքերդ բացեսուց աղիքներ տեսնես Չիմանաս թե ով եմ եղել ես Աչքերդ